Hello and welcome to It's About Youth, the show that talks about issues that matter to youth ahead of GE15. So, less than 12 hours away to the 15th general election. This will be the first election with Undi 18 as well as automatic voter registration. So it's very, very exciting, right, Faye?
Definitely, Farhana. 21 million eligible voters are expected to cast their ballots at over 9,000 polling stations nationwide. On that note, though, to discuss this further, we have with us Lhavanya Dharmalingam, the Program Officer at BERSIH, as well as Abqari Annuar, the Head of the Advocacy Unit at University of Malaya Student Union. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, how are you guys feeling, a day before polling day, a day before GE15? Lhavanya, I understand this is not your first time voting, it's your second time. How are you feeling right now? Excited? A bit,
Feeling
scared?
very fired up would be the word. I'm looking forward to casting my vote and seeing everyone else coming out. I think it's a very exciting day. It's like a holiday, it's like a festival, right? But at the same time, I'm really angry as well at how the elections is being held in the middle of a monsoon season. NADMA just released a statement yesterday saying about 6 states and 2,900 people have been relocated. What are the plans to cater to these voters? So that's something that really bugs me at this moment.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of challenges there.
Yeah. And what about you, Abqari? As a first-time voter this GE15, what are you most excited about?
I think what I'm most excited about is actually the voting process itself, because we've seen a lot of guides, a lot of infographics, videos on how should we vote. And tomorrow we're going to go vote for the first time. It is some would say an exciting, as she mentioned, that it is a holiday, a festival. And I am looking forward to it. And the second thing which I'm excited about would be the night when the election results are announced, because we know that my vote made a difference. I helped form this government and they are answerable to me.
Yeah.
We know many will be glued to their TVs, definitely tuning
When
in
it comes to
the
election
counting
outcome.
of the votes.
Yeah.
There will be also millions of new young voters due to automatic registration this time around. Lhavanya, what would you say is the sentiment on the ground? How are they feeling? Are they excited or do they not care?
That's a hard question to answer because I can't speak for everyone. Youths are so varied and different across class, race, geography, location. But I think a lot of them are feeling political apathy because they are frustrated at how things are going, at broken promises, at how the government is treating them. To quote a friend of mine, he just messaged me today. He was like, Lhavanya, I'm going to go back to Sarawak. He's based in Klang Valley. I've decided, I feel like I'm a victim of the government, quote unquote. And I want to earn my right to complain about the government. So I think a lot of youth, while they do feel that political apathy and anger, they're also driven by the sense of duty and commitment to wanting to make a difference. And honestly, casting your vote is the bare minimum. I think a lot of them understand that, although the popular rhetoric out there is that youths are unaware, not interested in voting. I don't think that's true at all. If you just want to take the last election, the Johor election as an example, we already had AVR and Undi 18. 54% of the people between the ages of 18 to 21 turned out. And the average turnout in Johor was 55%. So as you can see, the age group was quite well represented in the turnout.
Yeah. And you are also speaking as, a program officer from BERSIH who has engaged with all this youth and actually know, the youth sentiment out there. But Abqari, what about you among your peers? I understand, university students have also movement out there outlining their demands for the new government, for the election candidates. What about you among your peers? How are they feeling right now?
Yeah, I think for my peers, most of my friends are first-time voters, and we're all excited to go out to vote. And I think that boils down to the ability for us to have discussions, to do events, and that is something that I'm very thankful for towards my faculty. And personally, for me, I would always go and discuss the current political climate with two of my best friends, UAE and Siu Jing. And yeah, that has been something which is very good. We've seen a lot of people discussing why should we go vote, what is happening now, the current political climate. But unfortunately, there are some of my friends who are unable to go back to vote, and this is due to the expensive flight tickets. So my concern is towards the new government. Hopefully they can address this issue. Maybe the EC can have allow these students to do postal voting, or maybe the government can offer flight subsidies, and hopefully more and more the youth can go back, more students can go back and vote.
Let's talk about youth involvement a little bit, yeah? So many youth groups especially, such as Undi 18, we have Y Politics, Ajar Democracy, Architects of Diversity, for example, they have been at the forefront of political change in recent years. What do you make of youth representation in politics this time around as compared to the previous election, Lhavanya?
Looking at the candidate lineup, it's a bit hard to tell whether parties are truly committed towards youth representation. I believe about 50% of voters lie between the ages of 18 to 40, but the candidate representation is only at 15%, which is not very high at all. I do see the effort to include new faces, especially at the DUN level. I was speaking about the parliamentary level. But I hope that the commitment to youth doesn't just stop at the ballot box, but also continues after that in terms of encouraging freedom of speech, allowing youths to have like spaces where they can debate and talk without any censorship. I come from the University of Nottingham, my alma mater, and I recently went back representing BERSIH to talk to them about elections, and I heard that they had set up a board to kind of see how students would vote for which main coalition, the three main coalitions. And I thought that was a very nice way of getting students involved on camera, on the place itself. But then the university told them to take down the board. So there really shouldn't be such suppression. I hope they will commit to going beyond the ballot box.
So really giving youths like a safe space to actively express and discuss political issues. Abqari, what do you think of youth in politics right now? Would you say there are enough youth candidates to represent your voice?
Personally, I don't think so. I think to name a few, I think two 23-year-olds, Peggy Chow in Tenom and Muhammad Shahmi in Tambun Tualang Dun. And you also have Adam Adli in Hang Tuah Jaya, as well as the returning Syed Saddiq and Prabhakari in Muar and Batu respectively. But I feel like it's still not enough. In my opinion, this election marks the first general election with Undi 18 and AVR, and it could have served as a political reset for all coalitions, all political parties in Malaysia. And this was the best time for me, for the older generation, to make way for the younger generation. Some have done that, and I applaud them for that. But some, they decided, no, I'm going to go as an independent candidate, I'm going to go under another party. And that is very disappointing, because they've held the seat, some for 4, 5, 10 years. That's nearly half a century, nearly quarter of a century. So that is something that is quite disappointing, unfortunately.
Quarter of a century is a very alarming term.
Yeah. I mean,
but it really puts things into perspective.
It really puts things into perspective, you know, how we are seeing similar faces every time, you know, there's an election, and there's election for over 60, 70 years. So yeah. All right. We've discussed some of the youth sentiment challenges, you know, youth candidates facing leading up to GE15. We will discuss more on this after the break.
Welcome back to It's About Youth. Just 12 hours, less than 12 hours to go to GE15, and we're speaking to Lhavanya Dharmalingam, the Program Officer at BERSIH, as well as Abqari Annuar, the Head of the Advocacy Unit at the Student Union. Now, previously, we touched a little bit on the youth sentiment and their thoughts on youth representation in politics, but now moving forward to some of the coalition's manifestos, as well as the youth's concerns, what would you guys say are some of the issues that are important to the youth right now at this point in time? Perhaps you could highlight some of them. Abqari, let's start with you.
All right, I do have, I think there's a lot of issues actually.
Probably a long list.
Yeah, it's a very long list, and that list can stretch from Johor until Perlis, I think. But I think the main first issue is of course AWKU. It was again a 1960, 1970 law, and it's still here in 2022. It's an outdated law. And in my opinion, it needs to be replaced with the new Higher Education Act. And I think in 2018, Pakatan Harapan did pretty well to allow students to do politicking in campuses, and which saw the re-establishment, I should say, of the UM Student Union and also the IIUM Student Union. But I feel like now our voices are worthless actually, because we see what happens when we still have AWKU. I think the recent example, of course, is Class Democracy by Fahmi Reza. I think in almost all universities that he went to, he got kicked out.
Shut down,
Yeah, he had to go to a nearby restaurant, and I think in one university he had to do it on the road, by the roadside, and that is a very disappointing fact, because he's not there to spew any propaganda. He's there to teach the students,
to educate the voters.
yeah, on their rights, and it's a shame. And I also feel like when we abolish AWKU, this would allow student unions to be established in all campuses and all universities in Malaysia. And the second thing, of course, is the rising cost of living. And right now, everything is expensive. Food, clothes, books, even Grab fares are expensive as hell. And that is very unfortunate. And I feel like the government needs to step in. The new government, whoever it is, please step in, help us. Because some of my friends, unfortunately, sometimes they don't eat breakfast, they don't eat lunch because they don't have enough money. And it's a sad fact, because students, we need the energy, because we have classes from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And yeah, it's a very sad fact. And finally, I think public transport. I think last week LRT happened, the LRT issue happened, and that affected me also, because I was going back, I wanted to go back to LRT University, but then I heard, oh, LRT Kanajaya line is stopped. I was at KL Central, I couldn't go. I tried to get Grab. Grab was expensive, there were no buses, there were no taxis. I had to wait around 1.5 hours. Only then I could get a transport to go back home. And that is very sad, because it's Kuala Lumpur. Yep. It's one of the major cities in the world, and we lost our main public transport. That's an embarrassing fact. And the new government needs to address this issue, because students, we don't have cars. You know, most students have a policy where only year 3s, year 4s can go and drive, whilst others like me, every day I take either Grab or I take a bus. And it's sad that when we rely on public transport, the public transport, it disappoints us. And that is, I think, a few issues that hopefully the new government, whoever it is, addresses.
And also, if I could add on to that, I think youths, we have another, 40, 50, 60 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
And a lot of us are worried about long-term issues like climate change issues, food security issues. Like right now we have the egg shortage. It's gone so bad, it's hit the Klang Valley as well. Those are things that we are concerned in the long term, and we don't see the government taking active measures to address those long-term issues. We are still trying to deal with the bread and butter ones. Yeah. What about these big problems that are just looming up in the horizon? Yeah. It's scary.
Just to add on a bit, I think right now the government's policy, whenever anything happens, any issues happen, it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. There's no concrete plan
it's
to
more
settle
of a
it.
reaction rather than having a long thought-out procedure that can,
very reactive.
I think about the LRT one, I think if I'm not mistaken, they announced that LRT fares would be free, if I'm not mistaken.
7 days,
yeah.
7 days. Now,
Kanajaya.
that's good for in the short term, but my question is in the long term, how does that help LRT Kelanajaya to be more reliable?
Right, definitely. Lhavanya, do you have any other issues in mind besides, those bread and butter issues and also looming issues?
Yeah, I would like to add a cost of housing. Like in the past, you could, I think our parents had a much easier time even thinking about buying a house and being able to afford a house. Well, right now we're looking at in the Klang Valley, 500 million and upwards easily.
That's really the cost of living issue here.
Yeah, so things like that need to be made more accessible to young people.
So those are very, very important issues affecting not just youth but everyone in Malaysia, right? Yeah. So all coalitions have released their manifestos right now, pledging to act on some of the issues that were mentioned just now. Would you say they have addressed your concerns, especially for young Malaysians, and which, I guess, manifestos or issues that they tackle on resonate with you the most? Abqari, you can go first.
Yeah, I think I did have a quick look at all the manifestos by the political coalitions, and I think there's some good from Barisan Nasional. They had the free higher education for B40, the bookless education, and coding and language subjects. Then we have Pakatan Harapan with the Kad Belia, Beasiswa B40, Harga Tetap Perjalanan Sabah Sarawak, and then Perikatan Nasional, we have the Kad Prihatin Nasional, Internet Laju, Komputer Riba untuk semua guru. Those are very,
Sounds
very
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one question which I have is that, are they realistic? Because we've heard time and time again, economists, they say, every year Malaysia is on the brink of economic collapse. And that begs the question, are these manifestos, they cost a lot of money. If we look at it in black and white, it costs a lot of money. Now, are they realistic? Because unfortunately, we had the unfortunate situation where manifesto itu bukan kitab suci. That is a very, very disappointing statement. And what my question is that you can promise the moon, but are your promises
These just
realistic?
empty promises.
Yeah, because you know when you promise this, but then when you become government, you say, unfortunately, we don't have the money for that. Now, we elected you based on your promise. Now, I hope to all voters, not just the first-time voters, I hope you guys can, when reading the manifestos, when doing your research, ask yourself, is this realistic? Because if they are not, then why bother to vote for them?
Right, not just listing out the plans, but really ensuring that they implement it as well once they become the next elected government. Lhavanya, is there anything you'd like to add on to this?
Yeah, I saw there was something on BN's manifesto. They have a commitment to grant full autonomy to public higher education institutions. And I found that very interesting. That sounds very exciting. But I also think, as you said, the devil is in the details. I wonder how they're going to implement that. In terms of institutional reforms, which BERSIH works on, we've seen all the parties have actually adopted to a lesser or greater extent the institutional reforms, with Pakatan Harapan being the one that has the most comprehensive list. I've also seen the anti-corruption wise, like we're all concerned about anti-corruption. Pakatan Harapan also addressed that a lot. PN and BN, on the other hand, I felt they were soliciting the youth votes, but more through handouts and temporary measures. So I would hope that when they made their manifesto, they actually had a more concrete plan in mind as to how they were going to roll it out, and more long-term plans as well. And then there was another exciting one that BN mentioned, which was establishing a youth committee for policy review in Parliament. I'm not sure if they mean that to be a parliamentary select committee, which has a fair bit of power and influence over the policy making, or is it going to be more of a review committee that's a toothless tiger? So again, the devil is in the details. We've been burnt once in GE15. I hope that is not the case again this time.
We don't want the same thing to repeat twice.
Yeah, and looking at beyond coalitions manifestos, we also see a lot of GE15 candidates this time round turning to social media when it comes to their campaigns. Abqari, what do you think? Have they been able to appeal to young voters? Or is there any specific campaign material on social media that has caught your eye?
For example,
Yeah,
so we've seen a few.
I think right now the use of social media is very good. You know, it's the 21st century. Social media campaigning is the way forward. And I think one example I saw was the candidates doing the swipe trend on TikTok. I think I saw AWANI. AWANI also had one, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw the one with Muhyiddin. That one was with Muhyiddin, right? Yes.
It was very good because it resonates with the youth. And I think one particular campaign material which caught my eye was a video by Lim Wei Jet. And it was it was a simple Q&A video, but it explained who he is, and it kind of sheds light on the candidate. And it's not just Parti Muda, it's Lim Wei Jet from Parti Muda. But again, it can be better, so I do have a few suggestions, mainly to tie it back to manifestos. I think all the candidates, all the coalitions should do a video explaining how you want to achieve your manifesto, because again, promises can be made, but realistically, can you achieve your promise? And I think they should do a short video on that explaining, maybe post it on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, because that will help them a lot. And hopefully, which political party is watching, you have 12 hours, I think, so cepat-cepatlah buat TikTok video, ya?
Yeah.
That's what they log on really quick.
Cepat-cepat.
Okay. Lhavanya, breaking down the young voters demographic right now, right? There are those who are eager to vote, you know, like some of us who are eager to vote, some fence-sitters probably who are not sure who to vote and not clear which party, especially now there's 3 coalitions. There are also those who probably won't even vote. who don't care about all this. So how do we address the last two categories, especially among the youth?
Right. I think first of all, we have to make voting easy for them. A lot of youths are the most mobile generation of Malaysia. We are not in the places where our IC address usually is, so it's very hard to go back, especially a lot of the Sabah Sarawakians, right? There is one idea BERSIH proposed based off of what we saw during the MCO is something like those PPVs, those big vaccination centers. Why don't we have that, but for advanced voting for Sabahans and Sarawakians on the peninsula? So that would be a great idea to get everyone here. Bus tickets here are a lot cheaper compared to flight tickets, $600 going back. I think that's one way. Another way would be, in the short term, making tolls free. That was very helpful for all Malaysians. But in the long run, there needs to be more encouraging of civic participation. People don't care about politics because you can't participate in it. Once you get that sense of ownership, the feeling of involvement, I think that makes a whole difference. And it's not just to youth, right? There's a lot of older generation people who don't vote as well. And I think the same sentiment applies. So maybe more than just like having a free petrol or having a futsal tournaments with big prizes. I think what candidates should have done would be to have more discussions with these youths on what matters to them and address their problems more specifically in their own individual promises to their constituents.
Yeah, that's good. Now, BERSIH as well highlights the importance of first-time voters to push the voter turnout to at least 70% this time around. I understand there were some statistics involved. You guys are also just launched campaign Vote Future, right? So young voters, especially for this time around, have been described as the kingmakers of GE15. You know, their vote really matters. So what are your thoughts on this, and what would you say is the importance of the youth vote?
In the present, the youths from 18 to 40 years old make up 51% of the electorate. That is a significant number. The party or the coalition that can appeal to these people the most stand a lot to gain when they can get these people out to vote for them. But in the future, these are the people whose interests, whose priorities will shape the future. And political parties need to be more far-sighted as well to look at their issues and to carry this out. If not, if you have parties that are stuck in the past perhaps, or are too fixated on the way things were done back then, and you don't address what the younger generation wants, they're going to go out of style really quickly. So I think it's essential that political parties modernize and figure out and get what young people want. And honestly, the easiest way is to have more young people in the party itself.
Yep,
Put them
ensuring
more
they
as candidates.
adapt and keep up with the times. Really.
Yeah.
And Abqari, how about you? What do you think, as part of the younger generation, what is the importance of the youth vote?
I think, firstly, this is a very unpredictable and unprecedented election. This is the first time we're going to have 18 to 20-year-olds going out to vote. And of course, with AVR, if I read numbers, have never been my friend, so this statistic may or may not be correct. But I read 21 million new voters.
Yes.
And with AVR, 6.9 new million voters, with 16% of them coming from the youth. And now each coalition, they claim that, oh, I have the numbers, I have the youth support. But no, we cannot prove that because it will all be proven during election day. And at the end of the day, the youth will be kingmakers. And the new voters, they will determine who forms the new government. So I think, hopefully to everyone here who's watching, please tomorrow go out and vote. Because right now, nobody can claim that they have your support. You must show your support to them. And to show it, you must go out and vote tomorrow.
Simply put, voting is power.
Yes.
Youth have that power, and youth should exercise that power.
And I think we should remind the politicians that it's not us who work for you, you work for us.
Exactly.
We are giving you a
I
job.
support that.
Yes.
Serving the people. Do you want to do last messages?
Yep, just very quickly in brief, what is your last message to voters out there tomorrow?
My
Lhavanya, can you go
message
first?
would be, vote for your future. This is your future you're looking at. The next 5 years, it will shape how you come out of university, what will greet you when you step out of university, jobs, wages. So come out and vote for your future.
And Abqari?
For me, I think please go out and vote, because there is no right or wrong vote. The only wrong that even can be committed if you don't go out and vote and then you complain about the government, because we've seen, I think almost all four coalitions have been in power before, be it in another name, and we've seen what they have done. So look back on their promises, look back at how realistic their manifestos are, and then go out and vote. The most important thing is go out and vote. Tak kira in the morning or in the evening, in the afternoon. Asalkan you go out and vote, then that's good already.
Yeah, you have to be the change that you want to see, right?
Yeah.
So, there you have it. Lhavanya, Program Officer from BERSIH, and also Abqari, Head of Advocacy Unit from Student Union, highlighting the importance of youth's vote for this GE15.
Yes, remember this November 19th, be sure to head out and cast your ballots to make your vote count. Thank you for watching It's About Youth. I'm Fei Kwan.
I'm Fahana Sheh.
See you next time.